Good afternoon. Couple things. Happy Friday. One of the first weekends that I will be staying on base for the entirety of the weekend. Snowed something awful today. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Another week down. We're going to verify the audio is straight. And then, this should just be another Ask Me Anything. I thoroughly enjoy discussion of questions, in the pursuit of truth. Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. I posed a little poll or whatnot on IG. If you're not following me on there, you are unique. Yeah. Let's talk about this week real quick. Therapy. Your boy started therapy this week. Nothing crazy. I'll say this though. It is a very unique experience. And not so much unique, that's probably the wrong word. There's nothing more valuable to me than a quality conversation with someone who knows the value of that conversation, if that makes sense. Someone who's willing to engage on a level that's beneath the surface, beyond the weather, beyond the news, beyond what's trending, but someone who is sadly like me. And my therapist happens to be that person. When I first met her on Zoom, my first impression, I was like, this lady is like 40 years old, 50 years old, an old white lady. What is she going to tell me about the real world? And she proceeded to just read me like a book. Amazing. Not the most, refined person in the world, but like she was real. She was real, and she's knowledgeable, and she's wise. And we talked about a good 2 hours, honestly. And she proceeded to just amazing. And I left that conversation just naked, just naked. Like she'll ask me a question, and I'll go on my little long rant. Well, it starts with here, and then of course I connect with this dot over here, and then the origin, of course, and then the foundation, and all that. And then she'll ask me another question, basically revealing why this is wrong, that assumption, you're rationalizing over here, justifying this. You had no business saying that. You shouldn't have thought that. You're perceiving, the wrong. Yeah, your conclusion's wrong based on, your assumption. Amazing. Exactly what I've been looking for, and I prejudged her based on what I perceived about her just by looking at her. I was wrong. But all that being said, thoroughly enjoyed our little meet up, first initial conversation. But yeah, that's what's going on with me. This is also my first live that's streaming on Twitch as well. I have not verified whether or not it's actually streaming, but we will see after, definitely. But yeah, I branched out into Twitch as well, so you'll be able to see there. I think I download that. Twitch is an interesting platform. Obviously, it's known for its gaming and what have you. What's going on with you people? Yeah, we're live on there. I see. We got 0 viewers, man. Let's go. Who we got in here? Daryl Smith is present. I see you. You got Mary Elizabeth Price. I see you. You got Brenda, man. What's good, man? Chill Button. I see you. Mary Elizabeth, what's going on with you? JP, happy Friday. Yeah. Snow up here is rare when it's this cold. It typically happens when the temperature rises, obviously, and the processes take place. The water cycle, what have you. But yeah, it snowed and it's still snowing. It has not stopped. Um, yeah, it's been a whole thing. I'm like, I could make it to Fairbanks, you know, with my little sedan. I'm like, nah, take one weekend and chill. So I'll be here. I'll probably do some editing in the morning. I'll probably end up going anyway tomorrow. Um, the gym is back open, so I'll probably get some buckets. Feel me? But yeah, let's get to these questions. If you've got a question, throw it in the chat. I feel like being intellectually stimulated right before I go to bed. We got some questions on IG. Let's see what the people had to say. We got quite a few questions. Here's one. How to not feel the need to prove yourself. How to not feel the need to prove yourself. We must start with the basics. First of all, you must acknowledge that itself is a assumption built into it. Why do you think that you don't have to prove yourself to someone? I feel like we all do that, more or less. One thing that came up during one of my therapy sessions, the assumption was made, or like the premise was thrown out there, and of course it was just a group discussion. But the thought was, we should not care what anyone else thinks about us at all. And of course, when I hear absolute, I perk up. I'm like, all right, that can't be true, because if there's one exception, the rule fails. You go to interview, you should care what that person thinks about you. Hence, you dress up, you look presentable, you look professional, you speak clearly, and you're polite, and you bring a level of honor to that engagement, because you're after something. Clearly, you're adapting to the environment in order to remain there. Your resume does not have spilled tomato sauce on it, because you care what that other person thinks. So back to the question. First we have to start with the assumption of, are you correct in your thinking that you don't have to prove yourself to someone? Maybe you do. Obviously, context matters. Context definitely matters here. What I'm taking from your question, and of course I'm guessing here, is that you're asking, should you compare yourself to someone else? Do you need validation from someone else? It's a very thin line, because again, if there's one exception, then it can't be made a rule. Of course, you don't always side on the side of exceptions, but the exception has to be, quite rare in nature for the rule to stand by itself. In the most general sense, because obviously, these videos stay up, so this advice or this perspective needs to be somewhat objective. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need validation from anyone, but there will come a point when someone has leverage, when you're engaging in exchange of value, when you're going to need to prove, let's say, competence. Networking, perfect example in the military. When you're networking, my philosophy, you're providing value to someone, they're providing value back to you, maybe not in the same day, but the assumption is if they come to you first for help, that's an opportunity to network and to prove yourself being competent, meaning if we're going to exchange value, you're getting just as much value as I'm getting back. If you work in the med group and I know one day I'm going to have to outprocess, or I'll need a contact in the med group, you're at finance right now. So it behooves me to provide you value right now, be competent, prove myself to you to be valuable, which therefore you want to keep my name in your mouth. The next time you come to finance, you rather send me a text. You feel comfortable reaching out directly to me because I provided value to you first. And I proved myself to be competent. Your leadership, you should be proving yourself to be respectful, to be competent, responsible, accountable. There aren't many reasons why you should not be proving yourself to be these various traits that an adult would want to be known by. So yeah, it's not so much black and white. It's obviously nuanced. but there should be a level of discernment involved in that process of whether or not you should prove yourself in this moment, because there's some moments that are required that you go all out and you prove yourself to be a certain level of respectable or whatnot. I don't know. There's definitely not a yes or no answer to that question, but that's my perspective. Raven XO asks, are you still pursuing to be an Air Force officer? I am not. Lord, definitely not. Officers are dope. Officers are interesting people, but no. I got my first taste of being thrown in a position that I had no experience in, and I think officers do that most of the time, because obviously they have, you have like space officers, or you have, sea officers or finance officers, and that's pretty much like their foundation. But you see them in positions as like a squadron commander, where you're just leading people. You may not know the mission set, but you're there. Or first shirt, perfect example, where you're not doing your career field. You're just there to represent leadership in whatever way to support, the airmen and what have you. So, am I pursuing officer? No. The money would be dope, but I got enough dealing with enlisted issues, and money is not a factor when it comes to my happiness. Money gives me options. It gives me resources. It doesn't give me happiness. So that's something I've learned so far in my career, just on the enlisted side, that money is not worth it if you have to trade that for your happiness or for your peace. What else we got? Ooh, I like this question. Interesting. Raphael Ray asks, if you have seen any successful marriages in the military, what were the qualities that you observed that contributed to the success of the marriage and situations as well? That is a good question. The juices have began to flow as of late. If I have seen any successful marriages in the military, what were the qualities that you observed that contributed to the success of the marriage and situation as well? I've seen a lot of marriages, both in position of being finance, people coming to finance to process, or got married or getting divorced or what have you. I processed a lot of BH documents, with dependent, without dependent, dependency status changes and updates. I'll say this, one thing I've noticed, we live in a progressive age where we're attempting to do away with roles. Everyone wants to do something else, which is cool, because first of all, I'm not getting married, so it doesn't bother me. But we're doing away with what we would consider traditional roles. The man does this, the woman does this, the man does this, the man does this, the woman does this, the woman does this. There's all these different variations. I'm on my business. The way I measure success, and I have to define words. The way I measure success, to death do us part. The vows, the purpose of marriage, the raising of children, those children not ending up in a jail cell or on the side of the street, hung out on drugs or what have you. If you look at the purpose of marriage and you define success clearly, obviously you won't be able to see to death do us part for any amount of time. It's not something that I pay attention to in other people's lives. Like, all right, I'm going to watch them to wait till one of them dies to see if their marriage was successful. But along the way, you would have to throw in mile markers, such as the length of marriage, even though the length of marriage is not an indication of happiness in a marriage or quality of marriage. Length is just a simple measurement. It's kind of like miles on a car. They could be highway miles, they could be city miles. That has to be defined. Let me slow down, because this is good to me. One thing I have noticed is that there is clear communication of what each person's responsibility is in that relationship. I'm thinking of a couple right now. I'm not going to talk about them directly. But yeah, I'm thinking of a couple. And as I observe them, they've gone through a lot. Everything from cheating to what have you. And they're still married. He's now retired. And one thing I've observed from them is the way they support each other in their individual pursuits. while still having a common goal to go this direction. They're going the same direction. This person wants to go this fashion. This person wants to go this fashion, and they support each other getting to the same destination. Obviously, I don't have all the context on another person's marriage. I have to be in the room to see the fights and hear the context and hear, the jabs they throw each other. I don't have that. But what I do have is what I perceive to be about their marriage. And that's probably the main takeaway that I would say would be the support that they give to each other, the selflessness, the sacrifice, the accountability they take for each other, the willingness to work through what we consider mistakes. A lot of patience, the willingness to give, the willingness to forgive. I've seen a lot of that. And so, yeah, if a marriage were to be successful, that would be my takeaway as far as it works for them. They're still married. I think it's like close to 20 years at this point. Imagine being with the same person for 20 years in the same house, the same bed, sharing the same bathroom. Goodness. Props to them. Good question, though. Good question. Very quality question. What else we got? Brittany Dukes asked, do you invest? Thoughts on being financially independent? I invest in TSP, Roth IRAs. I have my emergency savings account. Shout out to Dave Ramsey. And then that's pretty much it. I'm not with the Robinhood and I'm going to invest in GameStop and I'm going to invest in, AMC and these various small companies trying to, get back at the short sellers and the hedge funds. No, way too much risk associated with all that. Although the more risk you take, the more return you could possibly get potentially. I'm not with all of that. I tend to like the slow and steady route. Slow and steady wins the race. Consistency, moderate to low interest, but it's consistent and safe. It is what it is. Security is what I value. Safety and longevity. So that's what I consider, to invest. And I mean, side note, difference between gambling and investing is time. Gambling tends to happen immediately. Whether or not you won or lost within seconds, versus investing, over years whether or not you won or lost. And typically, and you look at the value of compound interest, it behooves you getting one of them index funds, the S&P 500. There's some value there. So yeah, that's typically what I do with my investment. My portfolio doesn't have a lot in it in terms of variation. I'm obviously diversified based on my index funds and my mutual funds, but when it comes to just kind of venturing out too much, I pour more of my energy into passive income. I think I counted the other day. I'm at around 6 at this point. 6 streams of income that are passive. They work while I sleep. 6. Let me check. And that's really my whole point. I want to get to a point where I don't need to leave my bed and money still comes to me. It finds me. It's a huge master plan. So let me see. I wrote it down. Let me count how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6 passive, a total of 8 non-passive total. I have 8 streams of income, as I say right now, not counting my retirement investment. So that's my take on financial freedom, is to develop passive streams of income and to kind of build a foundation of, I'm not trading my time for money. I'm trading my time for money and trading that money for more money, and then trading that money for more money, and having that money grow while I sleep. So that's my thought process. A lot of mentors concerning that. Dave Ramsey, build your foundation of having emergency savings, avoiding credit cards. I still use one, but using it responsibly. Yeah, that's a good question. What else we got? My friend Mona asks, I've always wanted to research if the way people eat has any correlation to how they spend money. It's kind of vague in terms of the way people eat. I'm not sure if you're referring to how they engage with the food or in terms of the quality of foods. Correlation exists. just about everywhere. Not to be confused with causation. You have causation, which is the source, the foundation, the actual problem that we're addressing. You have correlation, all these different symptoms that may lead to the cause, but are not directly the cause. So I'm sure there is a correlation between, let's say how you eat is fast food, or you go to the store for everything. And like you're hungry, you have no food in the house. You stop at McDonald's every 2 minutes, or you're ordering DoorDash constantly. Well, that will correlate directly to DoorDash, or that will correlate directly to how much money you're spending, because typically McDonald's and eating out in general, it's more expensive than buying groceries. So you will see a correlation there as well. You could also argue that it's probably a causation there as far as why am I spending so much money? The cause of you spending so much money on food is because you're eating out instead of buying groceries. So yeah, there probably is. And I mean, based on that analogy alone, you can see how there is a correlation between what you're eating, the quality of food you're eating, the planning that goes into it, and then how much money you're spending for said food. Good question. That's the end of Instagram questions. Let's check out. I don't think I got any on Snap. I got one. All right, let's check out the chat. Who in here? I don't plan on being here too long. They're having a movie night tonight here on base. I was going to show my face to get a plate real quick and then retreat back to my room. Maybe do some editing tonight, but I don't know. I feel so uncomfortable being here on base. Like it's been so long since I've stayed on base on a weekend. Like 7 o'clock at night, I would have been I would be in my hotel right now, king size bed. You feel me? DoorDash on the way. Old girl pulling up. But change is good. Change is good. Mary Elizabeth Price says, found your videos because I'm thinking about joining the Air Force. I'm 28, love your videos. How much snow have y'all gotten? From what I saw, it looks like a couple of feet, honestly. It was already kind of piled up outside, but it looks like we got maybe a good foot extra. Alaska does not play games. Alaska gives you what you need and some more to go with it. So, there's definitely plenty. I looked at my tires. I think half of my tire is covered in terms of height. So yeah, it's definitely plenty of snow. Not something I want to be out in. I definitely take risks. So Alaska has typically 2 modes. It's either very, very cold and there's a ton of snow, but it's all frozen. So you're just driving on top of snow, but it's frozen. And then you have what we have currently, which I don't touch anymore. I would not be out in it, is when it's just pouring down snow and it's cold, but it's freezing like as it touches the ground, but it's too much snow to like drive on top of it. No, it's too much. It's too much. So yeah, Alaska will get my respect tonight, and I will stay my behind here. But yeah, appreciate you watching the videos. Yeah, if you have a question about joining the Air Force, drop it in the chat. If you guys watching, if you have a question you really want answered, if I may not get to it, throw it in the super chat. I'll make sure I address it. What else we got? Ooh, I like this one. As a Christian and in the finance world, what do you think about usury, interest? What do I think about usury or interest? Well, let's define usury, because words have meaning. What does usury mean?
Here's the definition of usury: the illegal action or practice of lending money at unreasonably high rates of interest.
Okay, so based off that definition, and of course, it's quite relative to what you kind of alluded to. I'm not for it if it's my money, but I'm not against it in principle, because it's operating off of simple. If you have convenience on your side, if you have what someone else wants, you have leverage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you define it, what you call it. If you have leverage on someone, meaning you have what they need, but they have what you want, you have leverage. There is no negotiating. You set the prices, you set the parameters. You get what you want. They are at your mercy. Again, how do you get a psychopath to change their mind? You do what that psychopath did to someone else. You do that same thing to them until they change their ways, until they say, ouch, that hurts. Please stop torturing me or hurting me or whatever. So I don't want to say this and it come off like I don't have empathy for those who get caught up in, like, let's say student loan is a good example, or a payday loan, or high interest credit card or something like that. I have empathy for it because I've been there myself. I've been there. It sucks. But if you think about it, the state of Alaska, perfect example. Right now, downstairs, we have a little small store, a shop at, that has beer and cigarettes and chips and what have you, TVs and whatnot. But there's not a lot on stock. Obviously, it's just meant there to be convenience. That convenience is leverage because they can charge whatever they want, because the only other option is a 45-minute drive down the street, or to go to Fairbanks, which is an hour drive. And then the next closest thing is small towns, spread it out all the way to Anchorage, 5 hours away. This store that is right down the hall from me has leverage over me, meaning you could call it usury if they're charging whatever they want, because those prices are not normal. Trust me, there's no dollar menu in the store downstairs. Is it wrong to leverage having what someone else needs? I don't know. If you look at YouTube as a whole, you have everyone selling a course on something, or this channel is monetized heavily. Access to me, a conversation, I charge for it because my time has value. Now, how much I charge based on and relative to what people need from me, on some level, determines the value and the exchange rate and the cost. You have some people that go around what some would call taking advantage of. How do you measure that? How do you measure taking advantage of someone? If a credit card company says, we're going to give you $15,000, it's all yours right now, do whatever you want with it. Of course, if you spend it, you're going to pay it back, and you're going to pay it back extra. Now make a choice. College loans. I don't care if you're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they say, hey, we'll pay for your college. We'll pay for your room and board. We'll pay for your food and a little bit extra. Here's the parameters. If you take our money, you're going to pay us back. And if it's not on time, if you miss a payment, there will be interest attached to it. Now, stop before you take the money and make a choice. Do you want this money? Knowing what you know, with the fine print available, yes, we omitted and we hid the fine print and we made it small and we stacked it up under a ton of pages, but we gave you all the information. You could have hired a lawyer to read the fine print, to go through it, to acknowledge the hidden clauses in the back. But we're giving you a choice right now. Do you want our money? And you have all these adults, all these grown folk, young, old, what have you. All these adults making decisions to take money, with the fine print being available, with all the information being available. YouTube videos on credit cards, YouTube videos on student loans. I make videos on going to the military, serve 4 years, you get a free education. Some people watch that video and say, you know what, I'll go to college first, and then I'll go officer or whatever. Of course, it's your choice, but it's a decision. So I'm for it only in the sense that if you have all the information available to you, not that it was given to you, but if it's available anywhere that you can go research something, and you don't do that, or let's say you do it. Let's say you do read all the information, all the fine print, and then you go and say, you know what, I will sign on dotted line. I will take your money. Thank you. You're responsible. You're responsible. Whatever fine print, whatever percentage rate you get, pay it back. Pay it back. And I mean, it's simple as that. It's not easy to say. It's not easy to live out because obviously I've had a credit card. I've been there. I made a video on this channel about paying off a credit card in 6 months. Go watch that video. I had to pay that money, but that money's not mine. That money was not mine. I had to pay the money back. I signed the dotted line for the credit card. It was approved for me. You know, I got to pay it back. So, yeah, my opinion is quite objective in nature that if you take somebody's money knowing or not knowing, it doesn't matter. I mean, ignorance is not an excuse. Not in 2021, not in 2020, not in, if you had a cell phone nearby anywhere, not excuse. Not excuse. It's unfortunate, but that's just my kind of unpopular opinion. That's just my thought process. But good question, though. That's a very good question. By the way, Christianity has nothing to do with my opinion. For me, it was just simple logic. You take somebody's money, they tell you how you got to pay it back. Pay it back. This question is dope. Do you plan to stay in the Air Force forever? That question pleased me. Hell no. Hell no. It was good, Larry Snuva. I see you. Here's a good question. Mary Elizabeth Price asks, please give advice on how to overcome social awkwardness as an adult, and could that affect my experience in the Air Force? Good question. At one point in my life, a lot of people would see me as awkward. I don't think I've completely outgrown it, honestly. If I'm honest with myself, I don't think I've completely outgrown a lot of my social awkwardness. And it's not so much that it's awkward, it's that it's me. It's me. Some people might perceive me to be awkward or perceive me to be, standoffish or stoic or unapproachable. Those are all perceptions. If you perceive yourself, if you think yourself is awkward, let's say you go to a public space, you go to a party, you go to a event where there's a lot of people there, or maybe there's a few people there, but you don't know any of them. How do you react to that environment? My advice: go anyway. Go. It will always start with baby steps. It will always start with doing something small and just being consistent with it. Doing the opposite of what you fear. It will affect your experience in the Air Force a lot of times because a lot of experiences of meeting other people comes from you simply saying yes. It's something I prioritize in my own life. It's kind of like why I'll probably go downstairs to the movie thing. Not so much that I'll stay all night because I don't know what they're watching. They're watching some type of movie, but saying yes gets you exposure. It gets you in the same room as potential friends, potential allies. Networking possibilities only exist outside of your comfort zone. They're out there, but they're not going to come knock you on your door and say, yo, we got this event going on. You want to volunteer? I heard you work in this area. You're looking for opportunities over here. Nothing comes to you in terms of the comfort zone. You must go in search of it. There's an underlying fear of your. It's kind of built-in assumption to your question as far as if you think you're socially awkward, I would ask you, what are you afraid of? And why do you think that you're socially awkward? Who told you that? You could be right. I don't know how you're supposed to measure that. Again, this is a highly nuanced concept of being socially awkward. A lot of people, prescribe to it. A lot of people think that they're socially awkward or they don't fit in to like what the type A personality should be. The loud or the normally above average volume of conversation, or the life of the party, the class clown, the popular guy, the quarterback on the football team, the head cheerleader. Those archetypes. A lot of people don't think that they fit those molds, so therefore they're automatically socially awkward. I heavily disagree. The women I deal with on a personal level, they're not socially awkward. They're just quiet. They're not loud. They have discernment. meaning when they enter a certain environment, they understand the difference between that environment and this environment and how they're different and how they should be approached differently. I would address your question from a see yourself from outside of your body, like looking back at yourself and say, wait, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not the same as everyone else. That's a good thing. You're not socially awkward. You're different. You're unique. Now, there may be moments where you can't engage properly or as best as you would want to. You're in a group and you want to go talk to people. You want to engage, with the group, and you're afraid of something. That's a different story where you should address that fear and ask yourself, why are you afraid? Is it rejection that you're afraid of? Not fitting in? Feeling outside the group, not feeling that like you belong? That's a whole different story. But to simply label yourself socially awkward and then kind of live that out and just it's a life sentence now. I called myself socially awkward. I perceive myself to be socially awkward. I went to this event and I didn't fit in with the the cool crowd or whatever, and now I'm labeling myself and I'm living this out the rest of my life. No. Address that fear. Address that fear. I recommend everyone get a therapist. You're not crazy if you get a therapist. You're not losing it, if you get a therapist. A therapist for me is someone that can give me quality conversation, someone who's willing to listen, someone who actually understands how the mind works, the physiology of the body, and like it's kind of like here, this video right now. I feel my breath, like it's almost escaping me, where I know I need to slow down and breathe and talk and slow down because I want to be downstairs, but I want to be here at the same time. I want to make this video. I felt my anxiety rising. I'm like, bro, you have nowhere to be. I have nowhere to be. Relax. Now, sometimes you gotta just talk to yourself. Just relax. You don't have to be anywhere. Be present right here. So you're not socially awkward. You're not. There's a irrational fear that you have not addressed yet. There's an irrational fear you haven't addressed yet. I will start there. Good question. Great question. Larry Snoop showing love. I see. I mean, we try to do a little something over. We try to feed the family. The family has to eat, so therefore I have to eat first, and therefore everyone eats. What else we got? Ooh, I like this. What do you consider the top 3 attributes to be an outstanding father? That's a very good question. What do I consider the top 3 attributes to be an outstanding father? Wow. So obviously I have no children. So the only person that I have as an example outside of the other men I look up to is my own father. Raymond Augustus Isaiah Jr. He was a great father. I don't think that I can give you 3 attributes. I can say this though, and of course 3 attributes may come to me later as I begin talking. One thing I will say is a lot of things that me and my brother have done, especially now that we're in adulthood, a lot of the decisions me and my brother have made almost mirror what my father did in his life. He's still alive, but my dad went to the military, went to the army, took some L's, infantry, passed. But me and my brother now in the military. He never told us to go to the military. He never advised us to choose the Air Force. Me and my brother, I don't think we ever discussed it with him as far as, I'm thinking about going to the military. You got any thoughts on that? I should call my dad a lot more because he has a lot of experiences that I'm struggling with right now. My dad is a teacher, amazing teacher. My dad loves questions. And it took me a while to realize, especially after I started YouTube, I'm like, wait, I got this from my dad. My dad teaches. My dad loves to understand how things work. And so from that, I realized that the example simply of him living his life me and my brother subconsciously followed. My brother doesn't have YouTube, but he's constantly learning. Me and him watch the same videos. We read the same books. We're studying the same topics for the most part. And we have very, very similar goals. He's going about his way, which, again, it's working because my brother's a genius. And I'm going about my path. We're different. 3 attributes of a father will be very similar to 3 attributes of love. The willingness to correct someone. The willingness to correct someone is an act of love. Tell me if the bridge is out. I don't care what tone of voice you use. Raise your voice to me. Grab me by my arm and don't ask for consent. Tackle me. But if that bridge is out, an act of love would be to correct me and to stop me before I get there. Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me you love me, but you won't correct me. A friend that does not disagree with you is more dangerous than an enemy. The most dangerous person in your life right now is a person that is unwilling to disagree with you. The most dangerous person in your life right now is a person that is unwilling to disagree with you, who's afraid of hurting your feelings, afraid of losing your friendship. So they rather you ruin yourself because they hands off. Hands off. I perceive that an amazing father would be willing to risk you not liking them in order to save you from making major mistakes. They're willing to correct you, tell you when you're wrong, speak up, and say, hey, watch out for that. My dad has this saying, keep your nose clean. Keep your nose clean. That means don't do no foolishness. Get somewhere and sit down. That's why on a weekend, I have no issues with just going to a hotel and going to bed. just old and boring. I have no issues with that. I'll wake up 3 a.m. and edit my videos and do that for 8 hours and then go to the gym, play basketball, stay there for about 4 or 5 hours, literally. Leave there, go to a coffee shop, edit more videos or watch YouTube or just sip coffee for 2 or 3 hours and then go back home and watch Netflix and go to bed. I learned that from my father. Not that he told me to do those things, but my father told me, keep your nose clean. He was willing to correct me. He was willing to prevent me from making major mistakes in my life. Let's see. Love, correction. Obviously, I'll throw in accountability. I would think that a father who cares about what his family thinks of him will take accountability for his life, for his actions, for his words. You can't be a leader until you have a destination. A leader is not a leader until they have a destination. How are you leading someone and you're standing still? In my world, in my life, a father, whether it's me or my father or what I've observed, the people that I listen to, the men in my life, they lead their families. They protect their families. They provide for their families. If anyone's going out to see, whatever sound that is downstairs, it's me. Just my philosophy. That's a great question. It was phrased very, oh my God, these people down here playing these snowmobiles. Great question. Great question. Yeah, fathers, arguably one of the most important roles in today's society is a father who is leading his family, and his sons, who else to lead a man into manhood but another man, accomplished, respected, taking accountability for his life, for his existence in the world, his actions, his behavior. I'm grateful. Just having a father and being able to say the phrase, my father taught me, It's underrated. It's underrated. Great question. Apologize for not being able to answer it in the format that you laid out, but what else we got? Almighty Moreland asks, "What's your next vacation destination when you can travel again?" Probably New York City. Probably New York City. I love that city. Love that city. What else we got? Obviously, we'll wait for it to reopen because, like, I'm not going if everything's closed and can't go to the gym, can't go to the restaurant. Like, pass. I'll go to Florida. I go to Florida or whatever. But yeah, New York City is one of my favorite cities to go to. Went there often when I lived in DC. So love the Jersey and New York City area. The diversity there, just diversity of restaurants and cultures and foods, and love it. Nice topic right here. This time last year, you went over what Kobe meant to you. Can you speak to what sports and competition means to you? Whether you'd ever want to be a coach, mold the youngins. Appreciate you, fam. Hey, that's a good question. That's a good question. First of all, one thing I learned in the past month or so is that I cannot be competitive and depressed at the same time. I've tried. It's weird to say that, but I've literally tried to be depressed and competitive. I can't play Uno or basketball or checkers or chess or I can't be competitive and be depressed at the same time. It's like my brain won't. It can't balance both. When I lived in DC, one thing I would always do is play comedy while I was in traffic because I couldn't be angry and laugh at the same time. Your brain is typically it's split. It's kind of binary in the sense that certain things don't work together. Certain emotions, certain responses, reactions do not work well together. For me, that's competition. Competition fuels me. It's an outlet that allows me to get out aggression because aggression is not appreciated anywhere else but in competition. Obviously, depending on the sport, but aggression, take aggression anywhere, the workplace, school, the restaurant. No, aggression is not welcome there. But you take it into competition, sports, basketball, football, whatever, and you shine there. The weight room. You take that aggression in that weight room and a little bit of anger. You take it into sports. It's one of the number one things that I've missed since COVID started up is the ability to compete physically. Physically. It's why tomorrow I'll probably drive an hour in some crazy amount of snow and some rough roads just to get to the basketball court to express myself physically. Competition is amazing. There is a hierarchy that exists. It's one of the few times that you're supposed to compare yourself to someone else is when there's a common goal, an option to win, and you're able to measure yourself by achieving, by winning, by beating someone. It's one of the few places that you should engage like that. Like those are the rules. Those are the rules. Is to compete with someone, to beat them, make them feel bad about themselves, tell them about it, explain it to them, and then repeat. Yeah. I love sports. Love sports. Basketball. I watch pretty much every sport, with the exception of golf, with the exception of hockey, soccer, football. Yeah, I watch football. I watch rugby. I watch basketball. Typically only the highlights because unless it's a social event, I really don't have the time to watch a 2-hour, 3-hour event from start to finish. Like, no, I'm not going to watch other people make money. No, but sports are it's one of the major things that kept me out of trouble as a kid is just having a basketball in my hand. It kept me out of trouble. So I owe a lot to sports. Would I ever coach the youngins? I would like to coach basketball because I feel like these kids don't know how to get buckets properly. And who else but your boy, to train up the youngins properly? Basketball is an art. The pick and roll system has not been defeated to date. There's no solution to beating a pick and roll. Some of you are probably saying switch on the screen. No, because if I shoot over you, now you're running for help. You're running for cover. You try to explain to your coach, I had a hand up. There's no solution to the pick and roll, but that comes from IQ. That comes from thinking, not so much from being, the most athletic on the court. Anyway, yeah. Whenever you get a chance to talk to someone in high school or a youngin coming up on the basketball court or whatever, I always try to give them advice, especially if they're on the shorter side. You got a lot of kids who love basketball. That's their ticket out the hood, and they're 5'6", they're 5'7", and you're not. Of course, you don't want to be that person that crushes their dreams, but you also want to be that person that could possibly give them a dose of reality early in their life. And Brett, your chance of the probability of you getting one of 400 and some jobs, it's not the highest. But the only way to increase it is to increase your IQ. The shorter players in the NBA, professional sports, the people that are unathletic tend to be overcompensating up here. JJ Redick, Rubio and Rondo, and these are 6 foot these are 6 foot NBA players, for the most part. But if you think about it, in comparison to their peers, they're very short. They're small, but they're up here. But you compare them to the rest of the world, the top 3 or 4% of men in terms of height. Anyway, coaching is something that's just crossed my mind, but yeah, I've never pursued it. Yeah, pretty much any chance I always get to pour in, try to help the youngins out. It's always fun. It's always fulfilling to try to help the youngins out. But great question. I'll probably make a separate video on passive sources of income. Yeah, I won't do that in this video, but yeah, we'll address that one of these days. Here's a question. Thoughts on what MOS I should go in? I'm 17 and I want the easiest job in the Air Force and graduating a year early. Easy is relative. Easy for me is not easy for you. The way I measure easy, the way I define easy is how predictable is my schedule and how much do I have to think when I'm at work? Is my mind required to engage when I'm showing up to work? My current job requires a ton of mental effort on my part. I don't like that. I do not like to go to work and have to overly engage my mind to say, all right, I can't mess this up. Let me actually, no. There are people in the military who get paid the same as me, and all they do is drive a bus. Got the AirPods in, got a podcast going, or some chill vibe music, and they just drive the bus. Type it in the GPS, and they just follow the line. And you got me sitting there just 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. It's too much. It's too much. If you're looking for an easy job, aim for the jobs that are available or exist in the civilian world. Meaning, if you see ground transportation is a good example. Ground transportation, they drive vehicles in the military. They drive vehicles. That same job in the civilian world, they're driving vehicles. It's not a lot of training that you're going to go through as far as learning how to drive a bus or learning how to drive, forklift or something. Jobs like that where you don't have to go study in depth. You're not confused about what you'll be doing in the military. Those are what I consider easy jobs. The schedules typically kind of are, sporadic or what have you. You will have to sacrifice something. So it will, you might have an easy job, but it might be time intensive. You might be working weekends. It is what it is. We realize that the military is the military. And so there will be some caveats that you won't know about until you get there. You realize, yeah, my job is easy, but I work on holidays and I work on weekends, and you're always sacrificing something. So there's always that to consider. Good question. What else we got? James said he lived in Anchorage. I see you. Anchorage is dope. It's just Fairbanks. Like it's the interior of Alaska that it's too much. But Southern Alaska, it's doable. It's doable. Joint Base Elmendorf and Fort Carson, it's doable. What else we got? Ooh, here's a question. If you were born in the medieval times, what do you think your profession would be? Knowing what I know now, I would probably be something of a poet, a writer, philosopher, probably working somewhere in academia, pursuing things of intellectual value. I don't know. I probably wouldn't join the military, but of course, back then, the value of men was in the military. It was in your physical prowess, and obviously, there were variations, as far as your intellectual pursuits as well. But those exist in women as well. Like that, there's no difference cerebrally in terms of men and women. We're equal. We're the same. Physically, arguable. So yeah, I'll probably be a poet. I'll probably be a philosopher of some sort, asking the big questions, staring in telescopes, staring out into the distance, asking why. It's a good question, though. Never even thought about that. Good question. Aaron Bauer asks, advice on handling stress in the military. I think I have so many videos on this topic alone. I'll touch on it briefly. Number one, ask for help when you need it. Ask for help when you need it. Some of the smartest people never ask for help. It's a very dangerous thing to be the smartest person in the room, because everyone that you would typically just kind of reach out to, that they don't have the answer typically. In most cases, you could be wrong. You might perceive wrong. But yeah, you want to avoid being the smartest person in the room. Always keep mentors around you, someone who knows more than you, who's lived longer than you, has more experiences, positive results from their decision making. Don't be afraid of asking for help when you're stressed. It's something I'm still currently doing and dealing with right now, as far as just, I need help, ask for it. Remove the pride, get rid of the pride, the arrogance, and ask for help when you need it. Other than that, take your time, prioritize, utilize your time properly, leveraging your time, planning your day. One thing I do at work now, currently, typically around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I get to work around 7:30, 8. But around 9 and 10, I get up from my desk and I walk back to my room here, and I take some vitamins, get a drink, sit on my bed for 10 minutes, check Instagram. But I take about 10 minutes, about the length of a smoke break that an average person would take. And I take that time to do nothing. It's not so much that I'm accomplishing something with that. It's just that I'm giving myself a chance to simply just breathe, simply just feel. And I don't need to be productive for every second that my eyes are open. No, you're burning yourself out. Slow down. A lot of stress comes from caring. It comes from not so much being a perfectionist, but wanting things to be high quality. And you will stress yourself out if your standards are so high, but the people that you're doing the service for, your leadership, typically your standards will be different. If you think like me, my standards are self-regulated. So I keep my standards where they're at, and my leadership may be right here or lower or higher or whatever, but I'm self-regulated. So typically my standards are higher than the people around me. But the issue with that is that I will burn myself out trying to excel on this type of level, constantly trying to compete when there's no reward. Sometimes there's no reward. Sometimes we're stressing ourselves out so much for no reason, for no end result. Maybe you don't have the resources. Maybe you don't have the time that you actually need to be perfect. But you're going to kill yourself in the process trying to be perfect when logically, logistically, it's not possible. It's not probable. So a lot of stress happens because we're simply moving too fast. We're not being effective. We're just being busy. We're just being busy. Slow down. Slow down. Be effective. Be efficient. Ask questions. If I could do this in 6 months and be done with it, how would I do that? If I took 2 hours today and just focused on this one project and just got it done, what would that process look like? Who do I need to call to get this one thing done and out of my hair? You walk in the office, ask this question. What is one thing I can do today that can make the rest of my day smooth, peaceful, calm? It's a simple question. If you're married, you come home from work, you had a long day. He's like, what is one thing I could say to my spouse that could make our relationship the rest of the evening peaceful, intimate, just beautiful, just peaceful? What is one thing I can say to make her smile? What is one thing I can do for him that just eases his mind? What is the one thing the children need to act right? Sometimes it's just get them legs. Yeah, questions lead to, some answers are only available because you asked a question. Some questions or some answers you don't just kind of mistakenly happen upon. Sometimes you have to ask a deliberate question in order to get results. So stress has a lot of different inputs, and it's imperative that you question everything. You question your actions, daily evaluate the results of your efforts, meaning there should be an end result. There should be a return on investment for your effort, for your time. So that's a good start to it. But yeah, I have a lot of videos on stress on this channel. Check those out. Good question. Appreciate you, JP. Study Studio said, my motto is under promise, overachieve. I'll be listed. I see you. What else we got? Here's a good question. Alan Guest asks, should I go to a community college to acquire a small but good career, or should I join the Air Force for the benefits it offers in terms of money? I am a high school senior with an associate's degree. I'll caution you to make decisions based on money. It's something I did quite often. And sometimes it leads to unhappiness because money is simply it's a tool. I constantly preach that money is a tool, just like this light, just like this camera, this microphone, this computer. It's a tool to help you achieve something. Money itself does not bring happiness. It gives you options. So joining the military for money, you're not going to get rich here. Even if you go officer, you're not going to get rich in the military. You might be able to invest your way, into a wealthy position. But as far as just every paycheck you're getting rich, no. Here's one thing I would say as far as choosing a career or the military. Who is paying for the college? Is something you need to look at. If you're paying for it, if it's not cash and it's not grants or scholarships, it's debt. It's debt. The only thing worse than a high income job or low income job is debt. Income, a question came up: how do I define someone who's rich? What number do I need to make per year, per month, per paycheck, whatever? At what number? Maybe it's $100K for some people, $200K, whatever. What number a year? How many thousands of dollars per year do I need to make to be considered rich? And the conclusion I came to was debt to income ratio determines who is rich. You can make 30 grand a year, but if you live for free, if you have no bills, let's say you found this utopia, you found this world, this town where rent is free, food is free, water is free, electricity is free, Wi-Fi is free, your existence is free, and all you just need to do is work. 30 grand, you'd probably be rich. But if you have credit card bills and you got a car payment, you got a mortgage, and you got 10 kids, and you're all paying child support to 10 different mothers, and you got debt out the ass, you're broke. Not because of how much you make, but how much you have to spend out of what you make. Debt to income ratio is something that needs to be looked at in regards to how we define what is rich. But yeah, back to your question. If you're not paying for college, if someone else is paying for it, by all means, go get a career that you want to work in. Not something that don't look at the money so much. Find a career that you want to work in. Something I wish I did. Something I'm kind of course correcting as far as I want to be in a career field. I want to wake up every day doing something I like to do, regardless of the outcome, the money, because money comes and goes. Money comes and goes. That's why I'm developing all these passive streams of income, because I don't want to be attached to a desk. I want to wake up and do what I want to do that day. And by developing passive streams of income, that allows me to do so. And then I might be able to show up to a job that I exchange my time for money, and I like doing what I'm doing. But yeah, try to avoid student loans. Again, military gives you a free education. You don't have to be active duty. You can be reserves or guard. You have a free education. Working 1 weekend a month, 34 days a year. Free education. So keep that in mind. If you're paying for college, that's cool. But if it's not a scholarship, a grant, or your parents paying cash or whatever, it's debt. It's debt. So, and a lot of people don't think about how much they'll be making after they graduate. A lot of people just think about, oh, I'm going to be a surgeon. Cool. I make 400 grand a year. Cool. How much debt will you be in when you graduate? 400 grand. So if I paid every penny back of this 400 grand I made this year, assuming you start, your residency at 400 grand a year, which you won't. If you paid every penny back out of your salary, you would walk away with no money. Let's say if you paid half of it back, you're still dealing with interest. So a lot of people don't think about long term. How do I afford this college education? A lot of people are able to leverage, especially if you go to like the STEM fields. Great decisions, quality decision. STEM fields, they're not going under anytime soon. This world runs off the STEM fields: science, technology, math, education. That's what the world runs off of. But you still have to pay for the education. And a lot of people end up in a position where I got this humanities degree, gender studies degree, and I'm trying to get 100 grand a year. Good luck. Good luck. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Avoid having to pay for that, especially if you have options that are giving you free education. So hope that helps. What else we got? Oh, excuse me. I think I'm dehydrated. That might be what it is. I feel off right now. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't typically make videos on Friday nights. I know it's late on the East Coast. It's midnight. 26 of y'all. I don't know where y'all watching from. It's 8 o'clock here, and I'm exhausted. Mercy. A couple more questions, then we'll call it a night. We've been on for a minute. Sometimes you got to go where it's necessary. Here's a question: do the dirt boys, construction guys in the Air Force have an easy job? Not at all. From what I perceive, I knew a lot of them when I was deployed, and they worked 12s in the Middle East. I was working 4, 5 hours, 6 hours tops, and while I was at work, watching movies and I was a glorified taxi man. It was just escort people around the base, watching people, playing ping pong, eating candy, watching movies. I was doing nothing, and then I was off in about 6 hours. Whereas they're working 12s in the heat. It's not an easy job, especially when you're deployed. Might be something different stateside or whatever, but yeah, just be careful with CE. CE is there's always work to do. Something's always broken in the military because a lot of stuff is old. It's kind of like being an aircraft maintainer. Unless you're working on F-22, that probably doesn't break down that often, or F-35, that's like fresh off the assembly line. You're working on F-16s, F-15s, B-52s, A-10s. Like you're working on old junks. You'll be busy. Kind of like me in finance. I'm working on these old systems. Busy. There's a lot of friction associated with it. So construction, there's no quick way to build a building. There's only a right way to build a building. So just keep that in mind. I have not watched Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates. Do I have good credit? Yes, I do. Here's a question. Joining the military or police force in today's time is looked down upon, especially if you're Black. Do you feel a sense of pressure or backlash from people you know who are from our community? No, because first of all, you have to think about how we communicate in 2021. Most of our communication is on one of these. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that you can turn that off. You can block people. You can find people you can agree with, which that's literally what most people do is they try to find people that they only agree with, and they never step out of that circle. No matter what you choose to do, you'll be looked down upon. That's the nature of humankind, is to find something to complain about, to find something wrong with that and that and that. It's what we do. People are neurotic, and people are they're unsatisfied. They're unsatisfied. So do what you want to do. I said this last video. Do what you want to do and deal with the consequences of your own decisions, good or bad. If I do YouTube, if I join the Air Force, whatever I choose to do, someone's going to have, opinion about it. Oh, well, this, and this, and this, and this. And obviously the Black community has a lot on our plate. Granted, like we preach to the choir, been there, living it. Think about what a job is. We're solving a problem. We're trying to solve a problem. It's better that we try to be a part of the solution than trying to just point the finger constantly. It's better that we try to be a part of the solution. So that's just my little spill. I'll leave it at that. What else we got? I'm not sure this is a question, but we'll look at it. Chop smoke, relax, bro. Let's see. Do a two-pronged approach. Do your job in the military during the day, eat dinner, sleep, wake up, and then for 5 hours get an education or start a hustle and something you love, and then try to make it full time. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. Almost exactly. Pretty much what I'm doing. Young King asks, are you doing 20? As of right now, today, yes. As of right now, today, yes. Yeah, relax on the rest of that stuff. What else we got? All right, we'll call it a day. Call it a night. This was interesting live stream for me. I just felt off. Felt tired. It's not a normal time I make videos, and so it is what it is. Just came on here to try to provide some value. Talk to the people. Feel me? So, but yeah, tomorrow Saturday, get some rest. I might have a vlog up tomorrow. We'll see, depending on how I edit, how long it takes. The next vlog will be Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, LA, And so yeah, I like to take my time, especially with like the music is probably the hardest part to find in a vlog. The right music, the right song, the right instrumental. So that's something you can rush with. And so yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Editing is one of the it's one of my it's like bittersweet because it takes so long and so much friction associated with it. But it's the most creative part of a given video. So what else we got? Real quick. Shantae J Love. Have a good night, miss. Yeah. Yeah, have a good night. I'm going. What time is it? 8:07. I probably missed most of the movie. But we'll go see how much food they got left. Sneak a little plate back to the crib. But yeah, y'all have a good night. I will see y'all next video.